I'll be real with you. Yeah, 3 times crazy's got you. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'll stop singing. I do need some karaoke in my life, though. Anybody out there that knows anything about karaoke? Hit me up on the Twitter, Babsports, BABBSPORTS. Let me know. I need some karaoke in my life. I need to really get back into that because that karaoke makes me happy. I cannot sing to save my life, but I can rap a little bit. And I just love being on stage. I love performing. Maybe that's why I'm in radio. Maybe that's why I like broadcasting so much. I'm better at that though than I am at singing. I've always thought about taking singing lessons, finding a coach, finding my actual voice, because I love to do it so much, but nobody loves to hear it. I don't even think anybody likes to hear me broadcast, but again, other people's opinions. I don't really care. It's sirens again for the second time in an hour. Speaking of an hour, you're listening to OzCat Radio, 89.5 FM KZCT in Vallejo. And speaking of OzCat, we mentioned it in the last segment. I'm going to mention it again in this one and probably in the last segment. OzCat Radio's 4th annual Christmas Light Extravaganza. Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. Katie, Cool Lady, and Spike Johnson from here at the station and some special guests will drive around V-Town handing out prizes for the best Christmas decorations and lights. Email us or call in and tell us about your hood or your house and where the crew should go and check them out. Happy holidays from OzCat Radio. From all of us to you. Whatever you celebrate. Doesn't matter which holiday you celebrate. Have a happy one. Have a stress-free one. I know. Impossible. That's quite the ask. Not my favorite time of year. Birthday coming up in 15 days. Still not my favorite time of year. I'll be happy in January. Let's just say that. And not only will I be happy in January because 2021 will be over, but football playoffs. Playoffs? The Niners might still have a shot at the playoffs. As stressful and frustrating and as much complaining as there been out there, the Niners are 6-6 and in the 7th seed in the West, which means they would get that last wild card spot if the season ended today. Think about that. Before the season started, the 49ers head coach, Kyle Shanahan, son of Mike, told you that he thought in his heart of hearts, I'm paraphrasing, that Jimmy G gave the 49ers the best chance to win in 2021 and the best shot at the playoffs. Nobody listened. Like, geez. Like, that, he's literally told you all season long, best shot to win is with Jimmy under center. Best chance to win is with Jimmy QB1. Best chance to win is when Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy. That's it. Trey Lance was never meant to be the starter in 2021. Kyle Shanahan told you that. Kyle Shanahan also said what I said. I said it first. Shanahan echoed it. It's documented. You can find this on my Twitter. You can go back to archive segments of the Fitz Blitz at fitzblitz.com. Shout out Timmy, who he and the fam are on their way to Honolulu right now. Freaking Timmy. I love you, brother. Go back and find archive segments where I said Trey Lance, I could see, would be used in kind of a Taysom Hill type package that you saw in New Orleans last year, playing off of Drew Brees. I could have seen that scenario. And Kyle Shanahan, 4 days later, came out and said, yeah, there could be some Trey Lance packages built into the offense. And in game 1, to start the season, we saw Trey Lance come in. But it seemed a little disjointed, especially in hindsight. And at the time, it seemed kind of new and exciting, so people weren't really sure what to think or have an opinion on it. But in all actuality, it seemed disjointed. Now you can go back and watch that game. It's against the Jets, against the Eagles, doesn't matter. Go back and watch that game, and you'll see that it seemed kind of choppy. So, Kyle Shanahan, son of Mike, head coach of the 49ers, play caller, if you want to call him extraordinaire, guru, genius, that's on you. I think he's a great offensive mind. I don't think he's the best. He's definitely not the worst. But this Kyle Shanahan, told you it seemed to take the offense out of rhythm when he was pulling Trey Lance, or pulling Jimmy for Trey, pulling Trey for Jimmy, going back and forth. It seemed to take it out of rhythm. So that right there should tell you he's kind of going to move off of that, at least for a little while. Now, we saw Trey Lance come in the second half of the first matchup against Seattle. Why? Because Jimmy got hurt. Trey Lance is your backup. So you play your backup quarterback when your QB1 gets hurt. And Trey looked okay. He looked like a rookie. The next week against Arizona, Trey starts. Trey doesn't look very good. I mean, he plays okay. Defense holds Arizona 17. Trey cranks out 10. And it was against Colt McCoy. Or no, that wasn't against Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy is second game. So that was against Kyler Murray. But Trey looked like a rookie. I honestly, and I said it then, if Jimmy was in that game, I think Jimmy wins that game. Your defense is holding Arizona and Calamari, shout out Lo Neal, a.k.a. Kyler Murray, to 17 points. And you got your rookie. Your rookie gave you 10. You mean to tell me that Jimmy couldn't give 10 on top of that and you win the game 2017? I think that would have happened. Criticize me all you want. I don't care. So we saw Trey Lance come into that game and play. Jimmy G, kind of banged up, plays the next game. Jimmy G rattled off 3 wins out of 4 games. And in those 3 games, he played really well. Jimmy, for the month of November, was the top-rated quarterback in the NFL. Let that sink in. Jimmy G, who receives so much hate in wins and losses, he's the only quarterback I know that gets no credit in the wins and gets all the blame in the losses. Let it sink in that for the month of November in 2021, Jimmy G was the best quarterback in the NFL. Statistically. And you guys want to bench him when he's coming off a great month. Was he great yesterday? No. Nobody was great yesterday outside of George Kittle. Russell Wilson wasn't great. Jimmy G wasn't great. Special teams for the Niners weren't great. Not really that great. I mean, outside of that fake punt, special teams weren't that great for Seattle either. Niners defense was great yesterday in stretches. Too many penalties. Way too many. Penalties really hurt this game yesterday. Now, it didn't translate into a lot of yards, but the timing was horrible. And I think that's important too, right? So when you're playing in the National Football League, you can look at number of penalties and total number of yards. That doesn't always tell the tape, because yesterday, Seattle was actually penalized more for more yards. But the timing of the Niners' penalties were an issue, and that hurt them. That is a reason why the Niners lost the game. 30-23. Niners failed to score in the second half. The defense swarmed early. Looked good in the first half, but looked gassed in the second. They just didn't look like they had enough in the tank. Which, I mean, that's fair, right? Like, the Niners, the last 3-4 games, have obliterated the time of possession and had success running the ball, which allows them to win that time of possession. And the Niners didn't run it well yesterday. The Niners, 71 total rushing yards yesterday. That's not good at all. You can point to Deebo Samuel being out. Sure. You could also point to Elijah Mitchell having 22 carries for 6.6 yards. That's 3 yards a carry? That is well below his average. Remember, we just talked about his average. He's coming in at almost 5 yards a carry, just a tick under at 4.9. But yesterday he goes 22 for 66. 71 total yards on the ground. That's not going to get it done. And the Niners were still in position to tie the game. Speaking of ties, so 30-23 was the final score. We can talk all we want all day long about that second half. We could talk about missing Cannon on special teams. And we saw Benjamin fumble to open the second half. That was costly. Because Seattle had just marched down at the end of the first half for 7. They get that fumble deep into Niners territory and march it back for 7. You add on top of that the next series for the Niners, they're pinned inside their own 5. This is where I get a little critical of Kyle Shanahan's play calling. You fumbled on the open of the second half. Seattle scores another 7. 14 unanswered in 2 drives, right? The end of the first half, we talked about penalties kept that one alive. This one, a fumble. So Seattle's doing what they're supposed to do. They're capitalizing on mistakes. Niners get the ball back for their second, quote-unquote, drive. The second time they're touching the ball in the second half. Inside their own 5. Special teams, I want to shout out, and I don't know his name because I don't care, but the punter and the kicker for Seattle, they were kicking the ball short of the end zone on kickoffs and booming it on punts. Just like Mitch Wishnowsky for the Niners was doing the same thing. Like, the legs on these guys were good, and they were pinning. Like, field position was an issue all day for both sides. And then you add in the turnovers and the fumbles, and that kind of changes things. But if you look at special teams, field position was crazy yesterday. And so the Niners get pinned all the way back inside the 5. This is where I'm critical of Shanahan. 2 run plays when you're inside your own 5. I understand you want to get a couple yards breathing space. I get it. I'm really on the 3, the 4, something like that. Get a couple yards. Instead, Elijah Mitchell gets stuffed at the line. So you lose it down. You make no progress. Second down. This, whether you want to call it predictable, whether you want to call it whatever, I don't care what you want to call it. Play action pass there on second down and get some breathing room. Like, even if it's just a quick slant, Kittle, like, release off a block and then just run in front of a linebacker for a quick boom. Pick up 3-4 yards. Get that breathing room. So your third down, you pick up 3 or 4, your third and still long, but it's more manageable than 3rd and 10. Why? Because what happens instead? Second down, they give it right back to Elijah Mitchell, and he loses a yard. Is it hindsight to criticize 2 run plays in a row inside your own 5? No, I don't think so. I think you can criticize that because what happens on third down? Jimmy G gets sacked. This O-line has been great on the left side. This O-line has not been good from the center all the way through to the right. It just hasn't. Now, do the overall numbers of this O-line tell the whole story? I don't think so. I don't remember his @ but shout out my homie that we go back and forth with on this O-line, and he brings some great stats, but Those stats they don't tell me what my eyes see. They conflict with what I'm seeing. So Jimmy gives up a safety. But it's not even really Jimmy. The O-line gives up a safety, but it goes on Jimmy's ledger. Right? So, oh, Jimmy held the ball too long. No, he didn't. That sack and that pressure came in a second. The line did not hold. Why? Because now you're on 3rd and long, and of course you're going to pass it. Of course you're going to pass the ball 3rd and long inside your own 5 on like the 2 or 3. That is predictable. What about play action on 2nd? Or just straight up throw it on 2nd. Start from the shotgun and hit a quick slant. So, do I think that Kyle Shanahan should be fired? No, I'm not an idiot. Yes, all of you out there that think Shanahan should be fired, you are idiots. Sorry. Maybe your mom didn't hug you enough. I don't know why you're the way you are. So I was critical there. So that's 16 unanswered points. And that, that's 30-23. That's the ball game. Right there in the beginning of the 3rd quarter. Neither team was able to do anything after that. George Kittle finishes with 9 catches for 181 yards. 181. Yes. Fantastic. 9 catches for 12 targets too. Like, that's only 3 misses. That's really good production from your tight end. That is why George Kittle is the number 1 tight end in the league. And that's not just an opinion. That's based on fact. When he's healthy and he's in there, things happen. He makes plays, whether it's blocking in the run game, getting out in a zone read and blocking downfield, creating holes, just sandwiching and pancaking and all kinds of other caking. And he had a game. Kyle Juszczyk, 2 catches for 21. Brandon Ayuk, 3 catches for 55. Those are your other 2 notable receivers. Ayuk, 3 catches, 55. Ayuk was he was having some trouble getting separation yesterday, because outside of Kittle, that's literally your only threat to pass the ball to. And that's where injuries are not an excuse, but they provide a reason for why things kind of sputtered out on offense at times yesterday. They couldn't run the ball effectively. Defense of Seattle was selling out on the run. Why? No Deebo Samuel. You had 2 people you could throw the ball to, and one of them's a part-time receiver. So, unless Kittle's lined up off the line, you literally have the defensive secondary keyed in on one guy. That is what not having Deebo Samuel does. He affects your run game when he's out. He affects your passing game when he's out. Jimmy still threw 20 for 30 for 299 yards. Quick, simple math. 20 for 30 for 299 yards. That's an average of 10 yards a pass. Are there yak built into there? Yes. But did Jimmy have some 20-plus yard completions downfield that were tackled after the reception? Yes. Jimmy's not just a dink and dunker, and I'm tired of hearing that narrative floated out by uneducated fans and ignorant media members. Boom. That's right. I called you ignorant again. Sorry. Not sorry. Be better, and you won't get the ignorant tag. Whatever. I don't even need to bring up who you are. You know who you are. But don't DM me asking me to take it easier on your show when you have shows like you had today. That's enough about that. Defense. Al-Shaair finished with 16 tackles, 11 solo, and half a sack. Al-Shaair, coming out party. When Warner comes back and you've got your Mike and Sam linebacker as Fred Warner and Al-Shaair. And please, everybody out there, Al-Shaair Shire. Say with me. Al-Shire. Not Al-Shire. He's not a hobbit. He didn't come from Middle Earth. It's Al-Shire. And it's Brandon Aiyuk. Not Ayuk. Not Ayuk. Aiyuk. Now that we've got that out of the way, Al-Shire had 16 tackles, 11 solo. When he's lined up back there, when Fred Warner comes back, that is going to be a fun tandem to watch. Could it next year be the best we've seen since Bowman and Willis? I'm not going to say no. There's a great, strong possibility of that. The Niners defense as a whole had 4 sacks on Russell Wilson yesterday. I would have to do a dive and see in the last, 10 years, how many times the Niners have been able to sack Wilson. And I think 4 sacks might be the most in a single game. Nick Bosa had a sack. This is getting to be real frustrating. Nick Bosa. Now they say every play, every snap in the NFL, there's holding on the line. Nick Bosa is being strangled every play. O-linemen have figured out a way to block Nick Bosa that won't get them a flag. Now, it's blatant when an offensive lineman has a handful of jersey and is pulling that jersey to throw a flag, right? That's so easy to see. What is not getting called is Nick Bosa being put into a chokehold. These O-linemen are literally taking their arm and wrapping it around Bosa's neck and using that to control Baby Bear. That's his Twitter, by the way. I think it's Baby Bear or something like that. So they're literally choking him to where the harder he runs, the harder he gets choked. How is that legal? He literally is running into a chokehold as the O-lineman chicken wings his arm up and puts Bosa's throat into the bend of his arm. I'm giving you over the radio airwaves a little bit of a visual, but if you watch the game, you can see that's what's happening. I think he's earned 2 flags for holding, I think, this year, something like that. And he's held literally on every play. And you see in all of these replays that the television broadcast shows, doesn't matter what game or who they're playing, that right tackle or that left tackle or whoever is trying to block Bosa has Bosa in a chokehold. Bosa gets asked post-game about it. Another rough day with the refs. And that just is what it is. Like, they can't block Bosa, so they're coming up with ways to get around that. And the NFL needs to do something about it. And I'm not saying that just as a fan, but I'm saying that as just like I thought the NBA should have done something about James Harden's shenanigans. And they did. They implemented rules this year, and we're seeing James Harden struggle out there in Brooklyn. And we'll talk more NBA coming up, but I don't want to get sidetracked off of that. So the refs didn't have a good game yesterday at all. At all. That's just a bad holding call on Laken Tomlinson when the Niners are charging downfield. Bad roughing, that second call, roughing the passer. Holding on Bosa for forever. And it just, those aren't excuses, people. But they are reasons. They did affect the outcome of the game. So that can be a reason and not be an excuse. Niners second half, fumble on the return. Safety on the next time they touch the ball, 23-23. INT which led to a touchdown, the last score of the game for either team. And they still had a chance. 30-23. Jimmy G was darn near flawless on that last fourth quarter drive. Flawless. That was pass interference, defensive pass interference in the end zone. Would have given them a new set of downs, and I have no doubt they would have got it in. But I was on third down. Blatant pass interference. For as flag happy as these refs were yesterday, not on that play. They definitely missed that. Like blatant. Did that cost the Niners the game? Overall? It didn't help. They could have tied the game. Now, why that's important, tied at 30-30? Because they go into overtime. You go into overtime, you know, the Niners got the ball with 4 minutes and change left. They marched it down the field. They should have scored. Jimmy G was flawless. This is the second time this year we've seen Jimmy G, final drive of the fourth, or what should be the final drive of the fourth, march your team down and put you in position to win the game. Hey, Jimmy G haters, Jimmy G did that against Aaron Rodgers and against Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson struggled this year, but Russell Wilson's still a highly capable quarterback. Aaron Rodgers looks 90 years old and like a meth addict. Lies about stuff like vaccines. Yet Jimmy still almost beat him. And if it wasn't for the defense in that Packer game, the Niners win. And if it wasn't for a missed DPI, the Niners could tie yesterday. And the reason why 30-30 is such a big thing, not because of ESPN, but because I predicted 36-30 the Niners were going to win. And the only way they win by 6 points if it's tied 30-30, if it's overtime and then Niners score Niners score a touchdown. I was this close to being Steve Stradamus. I like that, Steve Stradamus. I'm going to have to start using that because your boy is on a streak as far as takes go. I can't miss. I'm lying. Of course I miss, and I admit it every time I do. That's what you call credibility. If you're out there in the media, if you want to be in the media. Hell, every part of life, it's about credibility. And I'm highly credible. Man, that Niner game. Niners are 6-6. The season ends today. They're the 7th seed in the NFC, which is good enough for that last wildcard spot. Jimmy G gives this team the best chance to make the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan said it all year. I've been saying it all year. None of you out there have been listening, yet here we are. They are so, they're right there. They're in the mix. They'd be 7-6 if they won, or 7-5 if they won yesterday, excuse me. 7-5 if they won. 2 games over 500. A month ago, that would have been tough to visualize. Shoot, a month ago, 6-6 might have been tough to visualize. So, faithful, Google the definition of faithful first. And second, why don't you sit this one out? If you're outraged and you're upset, why don't you just sit it out? Sit the week out. Go relax. Do what I'm going to do this week. Turn on the dubs. Dubs play tonight against the Magic at 7 p.m. Why don't you use the 19-4 Golden State Warriors, take your mind off the NFL a little bit. And stay tuned, because that's what we're going to talk about coming up. Why? Because you got choices. Yep. Nope. And the Niners have been a nope. The Dubs have been a yep.
In one day, no. Came a long way.
And we'll be back talking Dubs right after this. Highly Cable Radio, 89.5 FM, KZCT in Vallejo.
Yeah. Suckers, no. Splash Brothers, yeah. Ain't no stopping.